Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be the second edition of Cooking with Ross. Now, in the first edition, we made a chicken fried steak with brown gravy and sauteed vegetables. Now, I know that some of you would like to have country gravy. And when I say country, I mean country sausage gravy. And you can use that for biscuits and gravy, or you can use it for chicken fried steak, or whatever else you want to put it on. So today, that's what we're going to be doing. Now, the things that you're going to need are your favorite country sausage, okay? Flour, milk, a nice non-stick pan, and salt and pepper. And without further ado, let's get cooking. Okay, so I've got my favorite country sausage in here. This is 1 pound, and I'm just going to start to crumble that a little bit so we can get it frying here. And I start out on medium heat. If you have a gas stove, you're in 7th heaven. You can crank that baby up and get her going really good. I'm on a glass stove, so I'm just going to take my time here. So we're just going to start to let this cook down a little bit, okay? And get this browned up right where we need it, okay? All right, so we can see that this is browning up nice, okay? Now, if you happen to be using link sausage or sausage patties, they don't give off as much fat as the tube kind, right, that I'm using. So my grandmother had an old trick. Every time she cooked bacon, she would leave a little bit of the fat in an old tin can or a cup or a Tupperware, whatever you have. So if you're using link sausage, you might want to take a little bit of bacon grease and just plop some in there. That is not in the what you need list, but just because if you use this kind of sausage, you won't really need it. It's optional. Now, once we get to there, this is all nice and browned up. We're not going to drain it. What we are going to do, I just keep a little thing of flour close by because you're going to use it for a lot of different things. And you'll use that bacon grease for a lot of different things. So we're going to do level tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So basically what we're doing right there is we're making our roux in the sausage. Now we're just going to take that and we're going to move it around a little bit here until you don't see any more flour. You don't want to see any more of the white, okay? That means that it's in there pretty good. Once that's done, okay, we're going to let it go just a few more seconds to cook the flour, okay? We're going to let that cook for a second. In the meantime, we're going to get our milk out and get ready to go in with this milk, okay? So that's looking pretty good. And you can still hear a sizzle, which means the pan's still hot. Oh yeah, we're looking really good here now. So now we're going to add our milk. Now what I would do, I would sprinkle it around so that it warms as you're pouring it in. Doesn't have to be hot, just needs to get warm. All right, and I would go until you cover the sausage, all right? Just about like that, okay? And that's what we're gonna start with. Then we're gonna keep the heat on about 5, okay? We don't want it to scorch on the bottom, but we also want it to start to thicken, and that's what that flour is gonna do, is it's gonna thicken it right up. Now, this looks as if it's starting to thicken up, see? So when it's doing that, when it's starting to thicken, that means it's at the proper temperature. So now the very important ingredient is black pepper, okay? If you're using a shaker, that's fine. I just like the coarse ground because it gives off a more robust flavor. And we're gonna use quite a bit of that, okay, while this is cooking, because we want that pepper flavor to cook right in, all right? And you'll notice a little orange tint around the surface. That's just because we used a little extra oil, a little bacon fat in there. As you can see, it's starting to thicken up really nicely. Now, if the nice thing about doing this way is if it gets a little too thick, you just slowly add a little bit more milk at a time until it gets to the consistency that you like. All right, now look where we're at here. See how nice and thick that is? And it's almost getting too thick, right? So all we do is just add a little bit of milk at a time. Now, you don't want to, the reason you want to add the milk slow is because if you cool this gravy too much, the sauce is going to break or separate, and that's what we want to avoid. So while we're adding, we're going to go ahead and stir, all right? Just a little bit of milk at a time. And that keeps the temperature up and keeps the gravy bound so that it doesn't break, okay? That's looking really good. Now, the next step is to taste your food. Always taste your food. That's coming right along. And if it's a little bland, that means it needs to cook down more. And it could also need some more black pepper, okay? You would think it would be over peppered, but that pepper just, it cooks right in and just gives it a mild pepper flavor. But that's looking really nice. See how nice and white and fluffy? And it tastes really good too. We're gonna go ahead and let it cook down a little bit more. Let it thicken a little bit more. But when you see this, you're on the right track. Okay, so look here, we're in the home stretch. Look how nice that is. Yum, yum. Now, upon tasting this, I noticed that it was a little light on salt. The thing about salt is just go easy because you've got the bacon grease that's in there, the sausage grease, and they're both salty, so you don't want to oversalt it. Another thing to think about, if you're a smoker and you're cooking for smokers, not a big deal, but if you're a smoker and you're cooking for non-smokers, it's probably best to just leave salt on the table and let each person salt as they want, because when you smoke, your taste buds don't taste salt as well. They don't taste anything as well, actually, but I actually quit smoking a few years back. And all right, so we're done with the gravy. Right, so we're gonna try a little bit of this here on some biscuits. In the interest of saving time, I just bought some biscuits. But if you have a recipe for homemade biscuits, whip them up. We may do that on a later episode as well. But you can take a look at that. See now, man, look at that. Amazing. All right, so the final test. Let's find out how we did, huh? Delicious. So thank you guys for joining me on this session of Cooking with Ross, biscuits and gravy, or country gravy. I hope you'll join me again. If you like what you see, please subscribe and like. And we'll see you next time on Cooking with Ross.